Diana? Ja, Walter? Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ja, ich spreche Deutsch. Magst du Hasenpfeffer? Ja, ich liebe Hasenpfeffer. Oh man, these things are heavy. Hi guys, Shooting Full of Holes here, and today we're going to talk about two rifles that are really awesome rifles in my opinion. I kind of like them both. One of my favorites is the RWS or Diana K98 Mauser replica. It was a favorite rifle when it first came out, and I had to get one, and I love it still. The other rifle that I really like is this Walther Parrus, and this is probably going to be my new rabbit rifle, hence the intro. Anyway, what I like about the Parrus is that it's one, made in Germany, it's made by Walther, it feels robust. The trigger is a robust trigger too. It's not a dainty trigger where it's set at like 2 pounds or something silly. It's really a hunting gun in my opinion, especially with the synthetic stock and 22 caliber. Both of these are 22 calibers. They're both wearing the same scope right now. So there's a lot to compare there. One is a underlever, the other one is a break barrel. The accuracy, to be honest, on both, especially at 10 yards, is par. I don't see much of a difference. But having said that, what I did have to do was straighten the barrel on the Walther Parrus. Now, that's absolutely at your own risk. I took a risk on it, and I made an earlier video, it was in Spanish, on how to basically make a jig to straighten out your barrel. There are a few videos out there, and Tom Gaylord kind of touches base on that and stuff like that. So anyway, that's for you to figure out, but it's not, how do I put it, it's not a very complicated process, and it's not the end of the world if you have to do it. This rifle is suffering of immense reverse barrel droop. Basically the barrel is pointing up, and it was a tad off center. It was shooting a little bit to the right. Now, it's on target now, it's centered at 10 yards, but the true test actually comes out at 20 yards. At 20 yards is where you really want it to be hitting kind of on point, not far off of center, not too high, not too low. So I might have to tweak this again, but that's the cool thing about this jig, is that it does allow you to tweak it with the scope on. Anyway, what we're going to do today, and what we're going to talk about today, is mainly the Walther Parrus. Both of these we're going to get a 5-shot average group. We're going to be using Superdome pellets, the 14.5 grains, and these are well-rounded pellets. They pretty much do very well in most air rifles. We're also going to take trigger pull on both these rifles, and I'm just going to do the trigger pull a couple of times because to me it's not that important. Every rifle has its own trigger pull that you have to get accustomed to. And that's kind of the beauty of, break barrel rifles or springers. Now, both of these are spring rifles. I've done earlier tests where I've even kept the Diana out in the cold for an hour just to see, what it does, how the velocity drops, if it drops any. Now, like I said, I want this to be my new rabbit rifle, so I'm expecting this to be cocked and in the cold for at least 2 hours before I fire a shot. That's what I average. So today it's minus. It's sometimes it's in the double digits outside, so it's definitely freezing cold. So we're gonna put this outside cocked and loaded for 2 hours. We're gonna take the temperature, and then we're gonna shoot 3 shots and get an average velocity of what it's doing. Especially the first and the second shot are the most important to me. So we're gonna take the temperature of it now. Also, just before we fire the 5-shot group. So I have a scanner here. And it's on, and right now the temperature, which to be honest, it's normally about 10 degrees colder in my basement. So I'm going to scan it right here, the main part of the piston or the system of the rifle. So we're at 54 degrees. It's actually pretty cold in my basement. So anyway, Both rifles, I'm sure, are going to give the same heat signature. And I'm going to take 5 shots with both, and I'm going to show you that info here in a minute. And we're also going to do the trigger pull. I'm going to do 2 trigger pulls in each one, and I'm going to show you that data here in a minute. And then we are also going to basically freeze this rifle for 2 hours, loaded and cocked. And I'm going to show you the data on that. So we'll get back to that here in a minute. Hi guys, we're back, and I've got all the necessary data and the velocities that I need. Now, the lowest or the coldest that I could get the rifle, even being out there in frigid weather, was literally 15 degrees. Now, it could have been the rifle cover that I had on there that kind of, well, and it was, how do I put it, kind of being in the sun a little bit. So, but I'm not too worried about, that. The main goal of this was to have it basically, loaded and cocked for 2 hours and just seeing what the velocity is. But 15 degrees is still pretty, plenty cold. Now, we're going to start with the Diana first. So, first shot, 738. Second shot, 738. Third, 740. Fourth, 740. Fifth shot, 730. Average 5-shot velocity was 737 feet per second. Its trigger pull is 1 pound 8 ounces, 1 pound 4 ounces. So it's run about the 1.8. Well, you don't need to carry on, but so it's a relatively light trigger, and you can adjust that however you like. I like it really light, especially for the Diana Mauser. It's super accurate that way. But that's why at the same time I also like the Walther Parrus, because it has a heavy trigger, so for hunting it just makes a little bit more sense, especially when you've got gloves. That way you can feel it. That if it has a super light trigger, you wear gloves, you just touch it, it'll go off. So Walther Parrus, 5 shots, 845, 849, 846, 852, 848. 5-shot average was 848 feet per second. And if you look at both rifles, they're very consistent. Not much deviation in velocities, and that's what makes them pretty accurate for the most part, is that constant velocity. So it's showing you it can be precise. Now, the 3 shots that I took after it being outside for 2 hours and cocked and loaded, got down to 15 degrees. 876. That was the first shot. Second shot, 866. Third shot, 873. 3-shot average, 871.6 if you really want to get specific. It's crazy how it jumps 20 feet per second. And I noticed that also when I did that test on the Diana. I think it was with the Diana and I think the Hotsun 125 where I did that. I really can't remember. So anyway, but it's crazy how you throw these guns outside and they jump up 20 feet per second. You'd think that spring would be kind of a little bit lethargic to bounce back at at its normal velocity, but it's actually the other way around. So now, keeping a rifle cocked for long hours on end, or constantly doing that, I feel that it will affect the way your spring rifle will perform in the years to come. Now, the one thing about this, where gas ram is better than spring. So gas ram has its qualities. It's a smoother shot. You can absolutely leave it cocked for hours, and at least in the back of your mind, you're not worried about it. And vibrations less, etc., etc., etc. Less maintenance, just keeps on going. But there's something to be said about these old spring rifles. They're still good. They're still an awesome product. There's a reason why Diana's, you know, stuck with that for so many decades. Walther and, you know, many other manufacturers. And it's not something to be shy, or, you know, to shy away from. In my opinion, these guns are just as relevant today as they were 30 years ago. So if you're looking at spring gun, especially, you know, to hunt with, definitely take a look at the Walther Parrus if you can find one, because I think they're really going out of, you know, being discontinued. But there's Diana, there's, you know, BSA, there's Patsan, there's, you know, Gammo, there's so many other different makes. And, you know, consider it. So anyway, I hope this helped you in some way to make a decision, at least give you some more information. You know, auf Wiedersehen.